Good morning, everyone. Today is the August 9th, 2022, and is the back to school day week, I believe, for many people. So yeah. So let's start our Jean. I noticed that you are the first one in the.
Yes, yes. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Yeah, sorry, I put mine in the first place because there's other meeting conflict. So the feature for local storage capacity isolation, and it allow local informal storage, right, to set request limit. And also there is another related feature, resource quota. So similar to CPU and memory, you can define a resource quota in a user namespace, and then it will limit, the total amount of limit or request, right, for CPU memory, and similar for informal storage. But one behavior is different is once you set a resource quota, you must set a pod request limit for CPU memory. Otherwise, the validation will fail. And for informal storage, we don't have that restriction. I think when I check the code back, right, there is a comment saying it's a mistake to must require CPU memory to set request limit if the resource code are defined in user namespace. I'm wondering what's the reason behind that. And the comment saying for other like storage or other new resources, we should not do that. But it's a little bit strange for me if you set resource quota and you don't have restriction, right, for users part, then that means if you create a pod without any request limit, right, then it's still allowed even you have resource quota in your user namespace. So I want to find out if anyone knows about.
I understand this because it was probably me who did this.
Yeah.
So originally, if you had declared a quota for CPU and memory,
yes,
you basically had to make an explicit CPU and memory request in order to pass admission. Right. And you're saying right now for ephemeral storage, if you make a quota on it, you don't have to make a specific request.
Right.
You have to go back and check if that's actually the case, because then the consequences of the original decision made it that you couldn't have best effort pods in the same namespace as things with explicit quota. So then there was, if I recall, pushback that said quota is only applying to those areas where you give explicit resource guarantees towards, but not necessarily applying to those where you give best effort access to a resource. And so there was a way to set up quota now to also let you say, like, this quota applies to particular scopes. So you could write a quota that said you're allowed 10 best effort pods in a namespace that also has an explicit CPU and memory quota. So my memory in the space was basically explicit quotas became more oriented towards the goal of quoting that which you guarantee your reservation around, but not prohibiting you access to best effort resources. That makes sense.
I see. Then I think in that aspect, it makes sense.
Let me just pause there to make sure we're in the same spot. Are you familiar with, I think we added the scope token to a resource quota. I just want to make sure you were familiar with what I was referencing there. You can say that this quota covers pods, or this quota's best effort resources or not. And I forget the other scopes that we had. It's been a couple of years since I looked at too closely, but Yeah.
Yeah. I understand the point. Yeah.
Okay.
My remember, also it's been a while, we are talking about the resource quota. What I remember, the quota, it is aggregate limit to define. It's just basically defined for the total capacity for a given aggregate naming space, like within a naming space or whatever things. And here's that's basically most is to serve that purpose.
Okay.
So
I think. Go ahead.
So that's why I didn't get what's your original question. So why this resource quota things and will be related to this resource and limit, resource request and limit, or the things I didn't get for the.
So I'm just like the behavior, right? First, if you define a resource quota for a user namespace, and so for anyone who wants to create a pod, you must set resource limit, because resource quota, let's say for CPU memory, right? It defines the maximum, I think, request limit you can put in a user namespace. And when you create a pod in that user namespace, you must explicitly set request limit if there is a resource quota defined in that namespace.
Yeah, so maybe just to make sure, so your use case is you want to ensure that every pod that comes into a namespace makes a storage request.
It's not my request, it's just like whether we should follow the same behavior like CPU and memory, so that the purpose of maybe some customer, they want to set resource quota. The purpose of setting resource quota is always like make sure the pods, right, also set request limits so that they can control how much resources consumed.
Yeah, so I would say that the purpose of resource quota is to ensure you can constrain the amount of guaranteed resource that Kubernetes gives to your pod. And if I apply that to ephemeral storage, when you don't request ephemeral storage, it's not even a guaranteed resource, right? So then, and then the CPU and memory thing, just because I'm looking at it now, we had the ability now with quotas to say if this quota is applying to time-bound resource consumption versus not time-bound resource consumption. So like you can write different quotas that say pods that have an active deadline, like if their jobs have, a distinct quota from pods that don't, or then we had use cases where you could write quotas that say, this is only applying to best effort access to resource, but not best effort access to resource. And then I forgot that we even had this. You can write quotas that say it only applies to particular priority bands. And then you can write quotas that say it only applies across particular pod affinities. But for the use case of demanding that every pod have a ephemeral storage, I would have thought a limit range or like a gatekeeper policy would have been the type of thing that we could try to enforce that, not resource quota itself.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think limit range is what I was looking for in the. You can set minimum and maximum for any pod if the user hasn't specified it with limit ranger.
And then a default,
Yeah, and it'll default to it. So it doesn't force the pod user. I think I was confused whether you're saying that pods which are best effort are not allowed, because I don't have a test for that. I need to add a test case in mine. But it was more like, okay, if the pods are allowed, they shouldn't be. Is that your question?
So it's basically my question is the behavior, right? In terms of CPU, memory, and the ephemeral storage right now is different. So I think because of some historical reason, the CPU memory, right? You set that restriction, and so for backward compatibility, you
Yeah.
didn't remove that. But I think at that time when local deformer storage is implemented, and we didn't follow that path.
Oh,
I
okay.
just
Yeah,
want
but
to
also I would
confirm.
say like
Yeah.
storage isn't a part of your clause class, your quality of service class. So I think our memory was anything that was existing in quality of service requirements, like if they were in the quota, then they would be required. And things that were not tied to quality of service, like you can construct a quota that says this quota document doesn't apply to best effort things. And that was, maybe if we go back and look at the list of histories and kept discussions, that'll probably be, but that's basically my memory of this and how I would look at it.
Yeah. I think it makes sense, and also like you mentioned the limit range that can be used for if the purpose is to limit, make sure all the pods has like some limits, right, in namespace.
Yeah.
Then they can use that for that purpose. And for resource quota is for non-best effort pods to guarantee resources. I think it should work. There's some user like raised this question, so I want to make sure we address and let me communicate. And I think his use case should be covered too.
Yeah. Okay. Cool.
Thank you very much. Yeah. Thank you.
So Jing, can I ask you to summarize what we discussed in the original bug?
Yeah. I will put a summary there. Sure. Thank you.
So Vinay, thanks, Jing, and Vinay, now it's your turn.
Hi. Okay. First of all, I think thanks to a lot of people last week, Mrinal, Peter, Mike, Ruin, and Mark Rossetti. They all, I think, jumped in and did quick reviews on the code. What we did was we took out the CRI portion of the code that was in the main PR and merged that. This hopefully will unblock Ruin's PR that's on standby, and also Peter for the CR cryo. That's the current state of affairs. Going forward, I had a couple of questions. One is if there are no objections for the kubelet code, at least there are a lot of commits in there. Can I squash them into one single commit? That makes it a lot easier for me to deal with rebases. And it should be less of a problem now with the CRI change already in, but it'll help. So question
that's easy for me, definitely.
Okay, then I'll make it into one big, assume that all the commits that are in there are reviewed a few times, and there is no, and I know there is one change, the hash one, which we need to take it out in GA. We can do that. I think I have a fair idea of what all needs to go out from that once we are there. The second question is for 126, can we do the API code merge early? I know that we need to work on a couple of things for this main working code in the kubelet. One is cgroup v2, adding that support. I would be a lot more comfortable with that going in first, because CI is already on cgroup v2. We need to have that. It's not a beta item anymore. And the other thing is we need to get the support from Creo, Containerd mainly, because that's used in CI. I don't know what the timeline for that is going to look like. That'll close the loop for end-to-end and flush out any issues that might be there. Last I looked was before Docker shim removal, which is why I was keen on Docker shim this getting in before Docker shim got removed, but it's okay. So what do you think, Derek, Don?
I'm okay. Derek?
Yeah, I think everything you said was fine.
Okay, so in that case, I'll create, just like we did for the CRI portion of it, I'll spawn a new PR for the API and have Tim and you give it one look. And because we want to do this in 126, right? Right?
Yeah, we wanted to do this in 125.
I know. No, I think that I got really nervous with the late breaking. So if the scheduler tests all came in and there was zero code change to the main code, I would be, yeah, let's do it, because it just validates that what we've been doing all along is correct. But we found issues, and then the C group V2 change, which I didn't realize that, you know, that we still continue to do the V1 tests. I thought that V1 has switched to V2, so my test validation is not there. That was scary for me, and I know Daniel wants to move this test to the node E2E node, but my thinking is that we should have this and add new tests in E2E node, because the fact that this test broke proves that it's working well, and it's kind of my security blanket, if you will. I know it's pathetic, but I trust it. So
Yeah,
I think we want to keep this one.
Being conservative here and for stable.
Okay, so I'll do that. I'll spawn a new PR for the API change only, and one for the scheduler maybe. But scheduler is not a big deal. It's small. It can be managed in one in the same PR. So thanks. I think that those were the two things I wanted to get some clarity on, and I got them. Thank you all for last week.
Thanks, Vinay. So next one, the Quentin.
Yeah, that's me. Hello, everyone. Can you all hear me?
Yes.
Yep. Good, good. We actually got a lot of our peers merged regarding the rename of SRO into KMMO. We are ramping up into pushing the code upstream. The only missing bits that we have is that we are not yet members of the Kubernetes SIG organization on GitHub. And I understand that we need sponsorship to do that. So I have put this item on the agenda to pretty much solicit the sponsorship from, you know, any other company except Red Hat where we are working, where we have the main contributors to KMMO, to, you know, get our applications in and become members of the SIG organization. I think we are looking at the two biggest contributors at the beginning, and then that we would add, you know, people as they contribute to the project.
So do you have an explicit PR open for like a sponsorship request that you want folks to review, or what's
no, I'm more looking, you know, I was reading at the process there, and we should, you know, reach out to people, reach out to sponsors before we file the application. So I was wondering if there is any volunteer that's not working at Red Hat that's willing to sponsor our request for membership.
Happy to +1.
Thank you.
I added my GitHub handle to the doc.
Thank you very much. And would you +1 2 people, the two main contributors to KMMO, or should we ask someone else?
Sounds good. I can do either.
Thank you very much. Thank you. That's all for me.
You also have a PR for the to add a list of the engineer to that sub project, right? So open
to the owner's file, you mean?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's correct. And you know, this one is blocked because we're not members of the Kubernetes SIG organization yet.
Sure. Got it. Okay.
So I will strip down that one to have a reduced set of owners at the beginning, and then we'll add more people, you know, as they become members and add contributions to KMMO.
Okay, got it.
And that's all for me. Thank you all. Thank you, Daniel.
Thanks, Quentin. And let's move to the last topic. I think that's Peter, right? Peter, is that your topic?
Yeah, it should be Peter. Peter, we can't hear you.
Software muted. Hi, can you hear me now?
Yep.
Hi, yeah, so this is me. A little bit of context, there was a low severity CVE that was reported against Docker a while ago that Containerd and Cryo also created one for. That said that inheritable capability shouldn't be specified inside of a container by one of the container managers, like Containerd or Cryo, because of like basically the idioms of how capabilities are specified. So Containerd and Cryo dropped those capabilities and all seemed well, but actually we found a couple of instances where that regresses and causes users who were previously getting those capabilities to not. And so in discussing how we're going to handle it, Renal brought up that maybe we should bring it up to the larger the larger SIG Node organization, and also maybe coalesce to a CRI test to test the specific behavior. And I also think it makes sense to kind of discuss what we think we should do about this one, because basically we have some users that were relying on having the inheritable capabilities, which like is questionably correct, but it's not super clear how best to move forward. So I guess my first question is, people from the Containerd community, have you met any backlash to the changes of dropping the inheritable capabilities?
Michael?
I believe so, Peter. I'd have to go look again to find the issue that was open.
I think maybe, Peter,
Okay.
we can create an issue or an example where a use case is broken, and then like cross-check with Mike, and then we can all agree whether it makes sense to support it or not, and put it in cry test. So we don't.
Yeah,
we don't change the behavior.
Yeah, I agree with the Manu. Manu, can you and Peter file the issue, and can you ping me through the Slack?
Sure.
And also we can do some like the internal cross-checking and to see that right. So for the, because basically it's more like the usage, right? So from the user perspective.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I mean there were existing pods that broke for us, and we have a couple of reports. So we can create an issue, we can cross-check and see, and then figure out whatever next.
Yeah, I see Samuel's posted a comment here. He remembers one issue. Yeah, and that's probably where mine was. I seem to a vague memory of one issue. We'll take a look at it. I agree with Peter. We shouldn't flip back and forth. We probably need to check the old Docker shim to see, how it was inheritable or not.
Well, the thing is, I think Docker shim was inheritable, and because this CVE came in, in the last 6 months. So, now we all have to decide how to handle this abnormal Unix situation that we create, that was created for us, and now we have to either break some people or deal with this abnormal situation. So
we just want to figure out how serious.
I agree, Peter. Sounds good.
Cool. Yeah, I'll open an issue and then come up with a reproducer, and we can follow up on offline.
Thank you.
Thank you. That's it for me.
Thanks, everyone. That's all for today. Any other topic people want to bring up before we end off today's meeting?
It's probably too early, but we'll have to start planning 126.
Okay. Yes, especially we already expected merge, right?
Yeah, one merge is waiting. Right now, I think I'm monitoring. Not that I'm expecting trouble, but I'm just monitoring the CRI change for any issues, and it should be okay. And I think after last Tuesday, everyone was pretty exhausted. I could see that the Slack channels were pretty quiet on Wednesday. So
yeah, I think we got a fair bit of stuff merged. So
yeah, with the last minute fun.
Thanks, everyone. I was on vacation, so I feel guilty.
Oh, you missed all the fun.
Yeah, I know. Actually, I saw those come by, and I said, "Oh my goodness."
Stateless pods. Got it. All right, guys.
Okay, then that's all for today. And thanks everyone.
Thank you.
Have a great
Great.
day.
Thanks. Bye.